So I have overcome anxiety myself, and I've helped hundreds of other people overcome anxiety over the last 4 years in my coaching business. And what I want to do today is just share with you exactly how we do it. So I'm going to start with firstly, what is anxiety? How do we define it? Um, I'm going to share with you a few different approaches that I've learned for tackling that issue. And then I'm going to basically just lay out the plan for you and the way that I overcome anxiety with the people that I work with, uh, and how I did it myself as well. So, firstly, what is anxiety, right? I've pinpointed it down to a few things, three things. Firstly, it is a fear-driven response. So, anxiety is essentially a, a response that you can have in your mind and your body that is driven by the emotion of fear. So it's an emotional issue, right? At first and foremost, I really believe that anxiety is an emotional issue, and it is an inability to manage and control our fear. So that's one way to look at it, right? The emotional issue of fear and not being able to control your fears. But there is also the issue of your nervous system being dysregulated. So for a lot of people that I work with, right, it's less of the emotion of fear and more of just a dysregulated nervous system because of high levels of stress. So I'm going to break it down for you and explain how all of this happens. But finally, the third thing that I've noticed is that it is a lifestyle issue. So we've got anxiety as a fear-driven response, so an emotional issue. We've got it as a nervous system issue, so a dysregulated nervous system, which is essentially caused by a chemical imbalance in the body, which means high levels of stress, adrenaline in the body. And then it can also be a lifestyle issue. And that it's usually that the three are all tied in together. And when I say lifestyle issue, what I mean by this is I've worked with some people, mostly men in specifically, and myself included, who have had anxiety when really what they needed to do was just change their lifestyle. So they were drinking and taking drugs and stuff like that. And that kind of lifestyle induced anxiety. So those are the three surface level things, right? The emotions, the nervous system, and the lifestyle. However, they're all interconnected anyway. Because with something like a dysregulated nervous system, if you're in high stress environments or high pressure environments and your cortisol level is up and your adrenaline level is up because of your because of your environment, then that's going to trigger you into the fight or flight mode. So when your chemicals in your body are imbalanced, or your hormones are imbalanced, your cortisol's up, your adrenaline's up, that will move you into the fight or flight mode. And that fight or flight mode is really it's an innate system in your body that is supposed to be there. So it's actually a good thing. People think that being in the fight or flight mode is actually not a good thing. It's a bad thing, but it's not true. It's not a bad thing. It's just that if you spend too much time in that state, then your body becomes dysregulated. You need to be able to balance between the fight or flight mode and the resting mode. But what we see with people who have nervous systems that are dysregulated is that they are stuck in the fight or flight mode. And that's because they are constantly on high alert, they're constantly stressed, and they're constantly having this adrenaline run through their body, which causes this dysregulated nervous system because they're always over in the fight or flight. But what you got to understand is if they're always stressed and if they're always, got a lot of adrenaline pumping through their body, it's also linked to the emotional of fear, because fight or flight mode is designed to help you in scary situations, right? It's designed to help you think quickly, run, fight, or do what you need to do to get out of a dangerous situation. So what's happening in the modern day is that we have so many people who are perceiving that there is a threat in the environment. So they're perceiving there's something to be afraid of, but there actually is nothing to be afraid of. There's no immediate threat to your environment. But because we are living in an age where it's a very fast moving age, and there's a lot of stuff going on, there's a lot of different information coming at us from different angles, it's very easy to just be in this fear emotion. It could be if you work in the city and there's lots of noise and there's cars and there's beeping and there's horns and there's all that kind of stuff. That could be it. You know, it could also just be a fear of financial loss from work. Maybe you're worried about like your career. It could be a fear of, losing a partner or something like that. It could be if you could have had some kind of traumatic event happen to you in the past, and then there's a fear that that's going to happen again, or there's this fear response that's been kind of chemically wired into your brain from that event that keeps coming up again and again. So that can cause you to perceive a threat in the environment. And even so, your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and perception. So if you perceive a threat in the environment, so you're imagining that there's a threat, then your body will respond in the exact same way as if there was an actual threat. So this puts us into that fear response, even when it could seem as if there's absolutely nothing wrong, right? Like I've worked with clients who have had bad anxiety to the point where they go to the shops to do their shopping and they get intense anxiety, and it happens behind their eyes and it happens in their body, and they start to feel physical pain, and they're going through this really intense experience of anxiety, and there's actually just nothing wrong, like outside of themselves, right? But they're perceiving fear, right? They're perceiving there's something wrong, there's something to be afraid of, right? Maybe it's the people, what are they thinking of me, or what's going to happen if this happens, or it's all a lot of what if thinking, what if. So it's worst case scenario thinking, fear driven thinking. And then the emotion, I find generally it's linked, right? It's usually the emotional side of things, and then that's causing the dysregulated nervous system, and then the dysregulated nervous system causes the emotional issues as well. Because when you're in a dysregulated state, it's harder to manage yourself. It's harder to be balanced. It's harder to be calm. So the fear is spikes a lot easier. So those are the main two. And then obviously you've got lifestyle as well, right? So a lot of people talk about one of the first things I do with people when I work with them is just get their lifestyle in check, sleep, exercise. Another thing that I really focus on is taking away things that aren't good for you. So sometimes I won't even add anything new before I take things away. You might have heard there's a quote. It says, don't try to heal a man unless you first ask if he's ready to give up what makes him sick. So, a lot of people out there are drinking, smoking, doing all this shit that's not really good for them. And then they wonder why they're anxious and depressed. Right. So lifestyle's got a big part to play. If you're not, living a healthy lifestyle, you're not sleeping properly, you're drinking too much, you're on your phone till 3 o'clock in the morning, doom scrolling, then you wake up and you have a coffee and you smoke ciggies or whatever. No wonder you're going to feel anxious. Anyone would. No wonder you feel depressed, right? You're not really living for much. So there's that lifestyle as well, right? And one other thing that I've noticed, which is kind of just like a side note, is that anxiety it will show you when you're not living in alignment with your true self. So this is more of a spiritual aspect of it, right? When you're not living in alignment with your true self, then the anxiety will flare up as well and kind of show you that this is not the way for you. And I've seen that before in certain clients. One of my clients is a builder, and he was working with a company that just wasn't treating him well, and he was having severe anxiety. And so recently he's left that company and just said, he put his foot down and just said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So that's the thing. Sometimes it's about taking away some certain things instead of adding everything. Now with him, the guy I'm telling you about the story, the builder now, he's also done a lot of work around inner child healing to heal, the emotional side of it, the fear, he had this fear that he was always doing something wrong. And so that we worked on that, got him sober, got him off the alcohol, off the, caffeinated drinks. Not that I don't think coffee is not that bad, but if you are an anxious person, it's worth having some time away from caffeinated or any kind of substances that is going to trigger that anxiety even more. So that's that lifestyle. So, and then I got him to do meditation, got him to do breath work. And then now, he's obviously leaving this job that's not really aligned with his true self. So you got to hit it from all of the different angles, right? I've shared with you guys a few different angles today, so far. And these are the angles that I'm looking at as soon as I work with anyone who has anxiety, because this is what I've learned just through my own journey and through helping hundreds of people. So you got to get control of your emotions. That's the first thing, especially the emotion of fear. You got to regulate your nervous system. That's the second thing. Or, all these things are interconnected, but that's the second thing. And then you got to improve your lifestyle, improve your habits, right? And often that can mean actually just taking away all the stuff that's bad as opposed to adding in, more things. And then as a side note, then anxiety will always show you when you're not living in alignment with your true self. So there's definitely a spiritual aspect to it as well. And I believe that through my meditation practice, I've developed a spiritual connection and or a spiritual awareness or spiritual realization, which has helped me to feel safe within my own body. And it's also helped me to develop a sense of purpose. So that's really, really important. Yeah, so Mia's asked the questions. He's asked, I find that coffee gives me anxiety. Is this my emotions or just my nervous system being weird? Yeah, it could just be your nervous system. So when you drink coffee, your stress levels will go up and your adrenaline will go up. So, there's different types of stress. There's physical stress, there's emotional stress, there's chemical stress, and then there is I think there's environmental stress as well. So when it comes to coffee, what's happening is you drink coffee. I know I love coffee, right? I'm a coffee fiend. I'm not drinking coffee right now just because I'm giving myself a break from it because I notice that when I start to get a bit anxious, I'm drinking too much coffee. And so, yeah, when you have a coffee, it's the caffeine spikes your cortisol, which is a stress chemical, and it also spikes your adrenaline. And so that will put you in a heightened state, puts you in more towards that fight and flight mode. And that's going to essentially, if unmanaged, and if you're not really comfortable in that state, it can cause anxiety for sure. So yeah, Mia, I would say that's more, the other thing with anxiety, right, is it's unique. Everyone experiences it differently. So, to answer your question, that's how I would answer your question at a glance. But if I was working with you one-on-one, I'd probably ask a few more questions just to see, what else is going on. Because, yeah, you could just take away the coffee, and I'm sure that would definitely help. But there might be some other issues as well going on emotionally. It's hard to say without knowing you a little bit better. So that's my kind of overview of like what is anxiety, and the different angles that you can look at it. Now I'm going to share with you guys the way that I help people overcome it. Because like I said, I've done it myself and I've helped plenty of people do it. I actually started to experience a little bit more anxiety recently, myself, because I think when I first had my daughter, we had a bit of a health scare when she was younger, and that induced some anxiety. And then since then, yeah, just with business and stuff like that. And recently I was drinking a lot of coffee. So it's not that I'm totally immune to anxiety. Like it still comes back every now and then, but it's like a lot different to what it was back in the day. When I work with people with my coaching, people usually come on and the anxiety is debilitating, or it's to a point where it's really, really, really affecting their life. And that's what it used to be like for me, but not anymore. And this is the thing, right? You're never going to be able to totally remove it because it's actually a natural part of life. And it's a healthy like internal guidance system. Like I said before, it can help you to like stay on the right path. If you start going off on the wrong path, or you start doing a whole bunch of stuff that is not good for you, that will bring up anxiety. And it's a natural response for you to come back into center. And also the emotion of fear is a human emotion. So you'll never be able to stop feeling that human emotion. But what you can do is learn how to manage it. Right. And that's one of the big things I help people with. So when you can learn how to significantly reduce your anxiety, even if you're a super anxious person. I've seen it before in many, many people. And it's really about dialing in those 3 points or 3.5 points that I just shared with you then. Actually, the fourth point's pretty important as well, right? You got to have a good sense of purpose and alignment with your true self. Because if you don't have that, if you're living out of alignment with yourself, which is kind of like a spiritual thing, your true self, your higher path, whatever you want to call it. If you're not living in alignment with that, you'll never really experience a deep sense of fulfillment, and that can be quite an anxious way to live. So anyway, I want to talk to you guys about how we actually change it. Right now, I'm a meditation teacher, right? So one of the first things I do with people is teach them meditation. And for a lot of people who have anxiety, sometimes that can be a bit confronting to begin with because, the whole thing with anxiety is the fear, right? And so oftentimes people feel unsafe in their own body. They don't feel safe within their own body. So the idea of sitting down and closing your eyes, it can be a triggering thing because it's a bit confronting. You've got to close your eyes and then you've got your eyes closed and then, oh my God, what's going on outside? But you've got to learn how to become comfortable within your own body. That's a very important thing. And so I've been meditating since I was 17. It's the number one thing that helped me throughout my life. Like it's the one pillar or the one habit that has just really helped me change my life and is something that I can continually check in with to keep me on the straight and narrow. So one of the first things that I do with people is I set them up with a meditation routine and I teach them how to meditate properly because a lot of when it comes to meditation, a problem that most people have is they try to do the guided meditations. So sometimes they just can't meditate at all and they have a lot of resistance to doing meditation. Which is funny because all it is really just sitting down quietly for 10 minutes. Like I'm not a woo-woo meditation teacher. I'm a no bullshit meditation teacher, right? So you just sit down and just be quiet for 10 minutes. It's not that hard, right? Like it's just sit down and stay still and control yourself for 10 minutes. And it's really, really simple like that. But a lot of people can't do that. And that's saying something, right? If you can't sit down for 10 minutes by yourself quietly, like it's quite funny when you look at it from that angle, right? So one of the first things we do is teach people how to do that because some people can't do that, or some people start with guided meditation, and they put the earphones in and they listen to guided meditation, which is a good start. Don't get me wrong. But it doesn't give you the same benefits as silent meditation. So I teach silent meditation because when you've got guided meditation in your ears, it's like someone someone's still talking to you. So you're still distracted, right? You're distracted from yourself because you can just tune out and listen to whatever the person's saying. Right? And yeah, it makes you feel calm and it makes you feel relaxed. But what you want to do is really get control of your internal world. You want to get control of your thoughts. You want to get control of your emotions. And when you're listening to someone else talk about blah, 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 whatever they're saying, nice words, it's distracting and it's taking you actually away from your center. In meditation, you want to be able to maintain your center point. You want to be able to become present and stay there, right? And anytime you get stuck in thoughts of the future or thoughts of the past, you're not in your center, right? As soon as you're listening to someone talk about something and you're imagining something, then you're away from the present moment. You're actually not in the present moment. You're kind of away from it a little bit. If there was an imaginary central point, As soon as you start thinking about something in the past or in the future, or as soon as you start, yeah, like listening to someone's voice and then imagining what they say, your center point is actually moving a little bit away from the center. So what we want to do is we want to learn how to maintain our center point. And the best way to do that is with silent meditation, because the only thing that you have to fight is your own thoughts. And you don't really need to fight them. You actually need to stop fighting them. um, and when you can do that, when you can just let all your thoughts be, and you can let all your emotions just be, that's when you can find a nice central point. But that's very hard for people, right? That's like that's one of the hardest things for people. And especially in this day and age, with everyone these days has got ADHD and ADD and all these different things, and everyone's going to get tested. What is ADHD? Like I've got, this is my perspective on this. It's attention deficit disorder. So you can't keep your attention. This is exactly what we are training for in meditation. How to keep your attention focused. Now, I don't think that ADHD is not a real thing. I think it is, but I think that it's a symptom of a sick society, right? If we got, people used to say that you got the memory span of a goldfish. That would actually be a compliment, because in fact, humans have a lesser attention span than goldfish. In 2024, that is a fact. That a goldfish has about a 9 seconds attention span, whereas humans have about a 7 or 8 second attention span. That's the truth. That's evidence. There's evidence to prove that. So if someone says you have memory of the goldfish, you should say thank you, because our attention span is less than a goldfish in 2024. And so this is because of smartphones. This is because of social media. This is because of, environmental factors. This is because of everything that I've talked about today. All of these issues, right? People not living in alignment with their self, people, having dysregulated nervous systems, people's lifestyle being shit, drinking, smoking, being on social media all the time. Even something like watching porn is so readily available. Like we've got so much dopamine and like short, quick fixes available to us, and it's damaging our brain and it's making us dumb, to put it bluntly. And so I believe that we really need to train our mind. We need to train our mind to be able to stay focused and to keep attention. And I really believe that. And that's why I'm really big on the meditation, because it's something that you can train your mind. You can use it as I use it as a training ground for the mind with my clients. So that's one of the things we do. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of different journaling as well. One of the big things I'll do in the beginning is set up a goal, like create some goals for you. Create some goals on like, okay, what do you actually want to achieve? And what are the step-by-step things that we need to focus on to get there. So having goals is very important, to have something to aim for. We also identify the key challenges that you're facing, because everyone's an individual. So we need to focus on what are the key challenges that you face. And then from there, we can go down and look at, okay, cool. How can we solve this problem? How can we solve this problem? How can we solve this problem? So we get the clear goals, clear problems, and then an action plan and like a mindset training plan that you can start to implement on a day-to-day basis, that's going to move you in the positive direction towards your goal every single day. And then from there, we work on, okay, what are the things that because I don't try to tell people to go sober or anything like that on the first session I do with them, because that's kind of pointless. People aren't going to do that. I usually will identify the problems, like I said, and sometimes that is, okay, drinking, smoking, watching porn, or too much social media, or not enough sleep. Could be anything, right? Could be for guys, I see a lot of those problems. For girls, I see poor like not being able to communicate properly and setting poor boundaries in relationships and stuff like that. Like a lot of girls I work with don't have the confidence to set good boundaries, or to say what they really want to say, or to put their foot down when they feel like they need to put their foot down. yeah, a lot of the girls I work with have like a low self-esteem or like low self-worth, which means that they are allowing things to happen in their life which they don't want to happen. And that's because they're doing that, they're living out of alignment with their true self, and they are, yeah, essentially it's causing anxiety, it's causing overthinking, negative thoughts, and it's essentially just because over here they know that they want this one thing, but they're allowing this other thing to happen all the time, and that's painful. That causes suffering. So with the girls, it's usually more of an emotional issue, and it's usually like these low self-esteem, low self-worth, feelings of not being good enough, feelings of not being in alignment with their purpose or their true self. And for guys, it's that as well. But for guys, I notice it's more the physical side of things, right? Like the nervous system, the lifestyle, and those kinds of things. It is the emotions as well, but it can be a bit more physical, whereas the females are a bit more emotional. So that's a good overview of it. And then, yeah, the coaching program that I run goes for 6 months. So, once we have that initial setup, we get the meditation plan dialed in, we get the mindset training plan in, so you can start to focus on, building your attention, strengthening your attention, because it really is like a muscle, right? Attention isn't just something that you just have, especially not in 2024, right? It's something that you need to work on in the same way as if you want to if you want to get like a really sexy body, right? You have to work for that. You have to go to the gym, you have to eat well, and you have to train. And, that's how you're going to get a sexy body, right? There's no other way around it. It's one of those things where you have to do that. You have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined, right? And it's the same with having a strong mind. There's no, if you don't take care of your mind, if you don't really value your mind and your brain and taking care of it and training it, you won't have a strong mind. So people, and a lot of the people in the world are like, we're complaining now a lot about mental health issues and with the brain and the mind and that kind of stuff. Uh, but people are just going down a slippery slope and not taking any responsibility for their self. And so, of course, you're going to have health issues. Like if I didn't go to the gym and eat well, then I wouldn't have like the body that I have, right? And if I didn't, I wouldn't complain about it because it would be my fault. And so, because I haven't done anything to be worthy of a good body, right? Or to not be worthy, but to have it. I just wouldn't have done anything to have it. And it's the same with the mind. If you don't do anything to have a strong mind, there's no one else to blame, right? So you have to take responsibility. That's another big thing I teach people. So you got to take responsibility. You got to start to take action on the things that you know are going to move you in the right direction, as opposed to making excuses, right? The more that you make excuses, you're just prolonging your suffering. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how we work on overcoming anxiety. So a few other things I didn't really mention that are important to mention, right? Talked about meditation, talked about goal setting, having a clear vision for the future, training yourself with your mind daily. But also that, there is removing substances, removing, negative like things from from your lifestyle. Then there's also inner child healing, emotional healing, building self-awareness, getting in touch with yourself. Um, you know, I do a lot of work with people around like forgiveness therapy and acceptance therapy as well, because when it comes to the emotional side of things, usually people are holding a lot of anger or resentment or guilt or shame towards things that have happened in their past. So those, you need to learn how to overcome those issues as well and move through those issues. That's when I get a bit deeper in with the work I do with my clients. I start to go into that. And then it's really about discipline as well and consistency. And so that's something that a lot of people struggle with, right? Especially if you have to do it on your own. If you do it on your own, it's very hard to stay disciplined. It's very hard to stay consistent because usually you don't have anyone to answer to other than yourself. And sometimes you're your own worst enemy and you just, oh yeah, today I'm going to just chill out. And then you chill out for one day and then you chill out for 2 days and then 3 days. And then all of a sudden you're back in this loop. So we all go through loops and patterns in our life. And to go to the next level, we really need to work on self-development and personal development. Otherwise, I'm sure you know this in your own life. I've got people in my life who are in the same loop they were 20 years ago, just going through the same patterns over and over and over and over again. And so these are energetic patterns or emotional patterns, right? So this is why you need to do the emotional work. And you need to also be disciplined with your self-development and consistent with your self-development so that you can go to the next level. It's like a tree, right? A tree is either growing or it's dying. And so if you're not growing, if you're not consciously choosing to grow and grow and grow year on year on year, then at some point you stop growing. And then when you stop growing, you start dying, right? And what I mean by that is you start to experience negative health issues. You start to experience, decay in your life, or a feeling of, this usually comes with a feeling of stuckness. I feel like I'm stuck, or I feel like I'm stagnant. I just I'm not moving anywhere. And it's because you've stopped growing. So that's why having accountability is really helpful. Having someone to help you, a teacher, a coach, a guide, something like that is very helpful. Having a community as well for accountability, having a proven step-by-step process to help you move forward. That's also a very important thing. And that's what I give people when they come on board with coaching. So if you are someone who has anxiety and you want some extra support, you don't want to just do it all by yourself, you want a coach to help you, you want some proven step-by-step frameworks and processes, you want a community of people who are working on the same thing for accountability, if that's what you want, then you can easily just book in a call with me. You can go to my website and book a call. I'll put a link below this video. You can book a call. Or just, hit me up on Instagram. We can have a chat. Happy to jump on a call with you and talk about it. The first call is just a free consultation to see if I can actually help you. Because like I said in the beginning of this call, anxiety can be nuanced, it can be complex, and I might not be the best person to help you, and it might be better to refer you to someone else, but we've got to have the free consultation first just to see if it's going to be a good fit. So that's a free one. And then from there, I give you all the details about the coaching, the prices, everything like that. And then you can make a decision about if you want to start or not. So that's a pretty big overview of how I overcame anxiety, how I help other people overcome anxiety. And, just to kind of handle like the doubts that you might have. Some people say to me, "Oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, and it just never worked." But it does work if you stay consistent and if you stay disciplined. If you give up, it doesn't work. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years now, and I've helped hundreds of people do it. And I know the one thing that's consistent is that, I probably had a 95% success rate. 95% success rate. So 95% of the people who I've worked with have had success. 5% haven't. And the reason why is because those 5% have quit, or they've decided that it wasn't for them, or they've, just decided no, or whatever, which is fine. Like, I can't make people do anything, but they quit. And so if you quit, if you don't stay consistent, you're not gonna get there. Mia says, I want a proven step-by-step guide to change my mindset, but I can't get that from you, your free videos, or is it more effective to pay for coaching? It's definitely more effective to pay for coaching, right? Because, you can watch the free stuff, don't get me wrong. And I've watched free stuff online before, and, watch videos, read books and something like that, but you're doing it all by yourself. And that that's not the most effective way to do it. It's better, the teacher or the coach or the guide or the mentor has always been an archetype all throughout history. There's an archetype of a teacher or a coach or a guide. And, if you look at the people who are the highest performing people in the world, they always have coaches, they always have guides, they always have mentors. So, it's much more effective to get coaching. In the same way as, if you go to the gym, it's more effective to have a PT. Like, you go to the gym by yourself and you might be like, what am I doing? Or am I doing it right? Or I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do. So yeah, I can give like tips and step-by-step processes and stuff like that on my videos, but it's nowhere near the detail and the depth that I can go in with my clients. I'm talking to my clients every single week. So imagine if you spent 6 months, week in, week out, focused on improving your mindset, improving yourself, overcoming your anxiety. every single week, boom, 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 consistent, 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 you're going to be in a whole different place. Whereas if you just try to do it by yourself, don't get me wrong, you can do that. But you're going to reach a point of just stagnation and stuckness, and you probably reach a point where you go, I'm not even sure if I'm doing the right thing. Or for example, with meditation, right? Like, yeah, it just takes a lot more time. So the answer is you can do it by yourself, but it is more effective to do it with someone helping you. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. Like I said, like a bit more about my story, right? When I first started, I did everything by myself for about 8 or 9 years. So when I first started meditating when I was 17, no one was meditating back then. Um, or at least I didn't know any 17-year-olds that were meditating. And it wasn't really cool. Breath work wasn't cool. Meditation wasn't cool. All of the stuff that we have now wasn't cool back then. So for the first like 8 or 9 years, I was doing it all by myself. But the thing was that what I had that was, not many people have is a high level of discipline. So I would meditate every single day for 10 minutes a day, every single day, every single morning. Yeah, and just like a high level of discipline. But even then, I didn't make as much growth. I didn't have as much growth as I've had in the last 4 years. It's probably been 4 years since I got my first coach. And I've had a coach personally myself every single year for the last 4 years. And my growth in the last 4 years has been exponential compared to the last 15 years or the 8 or 9 years before that. Before that, I went by myself and I kind of went slowly and I made progress, but it took me like 8 or 9 years. In the last 4 years, I've had exponential growth in all areas of life, business, family, relationships, money, all of that. And it's because I decided to get a coach, and then I've worked with multiple coaches to help me in different areas of my life. I've had a coach to help me with, spirituality, my spiritual development. And then I've had coaches to help me with business development. I've had coaches to help me with my emotional development. Recently I've got a personal trainer to help me with my physical development. I've realized now that having coaches is a hack. It's a real life hack. And so now I always have coaches. Like at the moment, I have 3 coaches, one for my physical health, one for emotional, and one for business. So even though I'm in a good space, I still get coaching because now it's like I've realized it's a hack. It's like a cheat code. And so this is the difference between people who are high performing people and people who are more average performing people. People who are average performing, they're only going to get help when they're in distress. Right. So people like I've worked with guys like this before who goes, oh, I don't usually get to this point where I need to ask for help. Right. And in my opinion, that's actually a very average mindset because you're only asking for help when you're in distress. But high performing people ask for help all the time when they know that they need to go to a new level, and they know that that's one of the secrets, right? It's like being open to ask for help and going and receiving help and learning off people who are experts and people who have done the things that you want to do. And that doesn't need to be me, but it can be anyone. That's just a generally good piece of advice to get people to help you in areas that you want to improve on. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that, right? Like obviously I'm a coach myself, but I really have seen the benefits, and I do know that when you get coaching, you get exponential growth. It's much more effective than trying to figure it all out by yourself. And don't get me wrong, I've got books. Like, I've got just like heaps and heaps of books here. Like I'm a big reader, and I do listen and watch a lot of stuff as well for free on YouTube and Spotify and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. But I do get coaching as well because sometimes you can get your blind spots called out and picked up on quicker with coaching. So yeah. Anyway, I guess it's a good thing to add into this session today because that's another way to overcome your anxiety. Get help. So yeah, if you need anything, let me know. And if you want to book a call, a free consultation, you can go to my website. You can do that, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. You can have a chat with me in the DMs. There's the link to that is in my bio. I'll put it in the description of this video as well. So that's it for today. I hope that was helpful for you guys, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.